Shalom. It's really nice to be this close to each other. I'm just going to remind us that being this close to each other, while we feel really comfortable for those of us who are in the room to do this, we do ask that you mask and put your mask over your mouth and your nose throughout this service here in this chapel. Mark. Okay. It's nice to see you. All of you. I'm not singling anyone. Mark was always at the end of that sentence. Having to flow. As we come into this space, in this Torah portion this week, there's a whole conversation about what the priests, the Levites, wore. And when they were working in the Mishkan. There we go. Surprise! And what they wore, it's a very fashion show kind of Torah portion. And we hear about just a beautiful breastplate that has amazing stones in it. And we hear about their robe. And at the bottom of the robe, we find out that they have bells and rimonim, pomegranates, one after the other. And they have the phrase there as if we are going to ourselves make the cloth. They say it's a bell and a rimonim, bell, rimonim, bell, rimonim. It tells us what it looks like all the way around the bottom. But on their heads, there's a line, there's almost like a frontlet, they call it, a bit of a crown, and it says, Kodesh Ladonai. It says, holy to God, to indicate that is who they are. A long time ago, there were priests, and then there was everybody else. But since then, we become a kingdom of priests, which means we are all to wear such finery. We're all here to do the service of the temple. We're all here wearing a sign upon our sweet keppies that says Kodesh Ladonai, holy to God. And I think when we are outside of this room, it sort of fades away, and we forget outside of Shabbat, and we forget that each of us is holy to God, Kodesh Ladonai. And there's obviously a disconnection. Thank you, Liz. When we mess up at a meeting, when we lose our temper with a loved one, when we do a job less well than we had hoped we would, when we kick ourselves for making a mistake, we forget that even in the midst of all of that, Kodesh Ladonai, it's our title, it's our clothing. We are holy before God, holy to God. God's holy people just by being human. But when we come in here, somehow the words sort of become more apparent, they're brighter. And I can see them on all of your foreheads. And I hope you can see them if you look at each other just for a moment and imagine they're written right on their forehead, right on their head. It says, Kodesh Ladonai. Imagine knowing that each person in this room is holy and beautiful just for who they are. And so when we come in here knowing that, lets us build the joy. It lets us build the volume. It lets us remember that we are capable of so much, and all we have to do here in this room is love. Be kind, be generous to ourselves, to one another. This whole room of people that is so very Kodesh Adonai. And so we will make our way through this service now into the Psalms of Shabbat L'chun Ranana, with the glow of holiness just beaming off of each of us. We begin on page 130.
Shabbat joy. Let out all those less tasty frustrations of the week as we head into the hot engagement energies.
Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. I own a pair of running sneakers that have ever run maybe once or twice in their life. Why? Because running is hard. Harder than I expected it to be. And my motivation to keep doing it was not as strong as was my desire to quit it. I understand that if I had kept on it, running regularly, consistently, I probably would have gotten better at it, strengthened my lungs, my legs, had I kept at it in a regular way. I also own a guitar that was played for one summer. I had a decent rendition going of the Indigo Girls' Closer to Fine, but my learning was slow going and tuning it was a disaster. Imagine that if I had stayed with it, I would have acquired some muscle memory and improved. But it was hard, and I stopped practicing. I am not proud of these two vignettes, but they are true, and they are things that I have learned from. Starting something new and exciting is a lot easier than making a regular habit out of it, such that it becomes part of who we are. Last week we read Parshat Teruma about the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle that we carried through our 40-year journey through the wilderness. And it was fabulous. It was all made of beautiful gold and crimson and silver and gemstones. It was all fire and God's presence and all hands on deck. It was very exciting as a beginning, the spiritual grandeur of it all. But this week, we read Parshat Tetzaveh, which is about the sacred service of the Levites, what they do inside of the tabernacle. If Parshat Teruma is the ecstatic beginning, I'm going to learn how to play guitar. Then Parshat Tetzaveh is the paced regularity of practice. The consistency of showing up again and again at the appointed times to build the muscle memory of ritual and tradition and peoplehood. In his book, The Heart of Torah, Rabbi Shai Held writes about the difference between these two Torah portions and also the need to have them both as we become the Jewish people and begin a relationship with God. He writes, this Torah portion, Tetzaveh, paints a powerful portrait of covenantal mutuality, of God's commitment to Israel and Israel's commitment to God. But it also claims, crucially, that covenantal mutuality depends less on ecstasy than on constancy. We find this tension in the very first verse of Tetzaveh. It says this, V'ata tetzaveh et b'nei Yisrael v'yikhu elecha shemen zayit zach katit lamahor l'ha'alot ner tamid. God says to Moses, instruct the Israelites to bring you clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, for kindling the ner tamid. And we have a ner tamid. Every synagogue in the world has a ner tamid. So how do we usually translate ner tamid?
Eternal life.
Eternal life. That is what we've come to know. But there is a debate about the translation and intention of the word tamid. Midrash tells us that tamid means eternal, never ceasing, and calls it a symbol of God's constant presence. And so to affirm that truth, our job is to never let that light go out. And it's why this is always lit, or plugged in, as it were. But Rabbi Held, backed up by Rashi, demonstrates that the pshat, the plain meaning of this text, of this word tamid, means regularly. Rabbi Yehoyada Amir explains the focus on this commandment is not on keep the light always being aflame, but on Israel's obligation to kindle it again and again. This parsha would teach us that as much as the beginning of something ignites us, there is a necessary holiness to regularity, to doing something over and over, even after the first boom of it has waned. certainly found it very hard to sustain even the things that I wanted and knew were good for me. And yet, there is so much to be gained by the Torah of Tetzaveh, a healthier body that can run comfortably, the music that we can create once we've gotten good. And I'm thinking about this very service and your attendance at it. What do we call those of you who come each week or on Saturday morning, here or virtually? Regulars. The regulars. The Shabbat regulars. Right? You come regularly. Last week was the first week that this service happened in this way in 2 years, and the energy was palpable. It was a Parshat Teruma moment. I overheard someone approach an old friend as if with new eyes and say to them, "Hey, how you been for the past 2 years?" Teruma. But Tetzaveh is what ultimately makes this space so powerful. The return to one another each week, the way we greet the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat as old friends. You might even have a makom kavua, a fixed place where you choose to sit each week. Even our bodies find meaning in regularity. And if you are not a regular, but just trying it out, welcome. I'm new here too. But I hope that it becomes Tetzaveh for us also, because that's how we come to know one another in this space, how all of this becomes familiar and comforting. In our regularity, we become partners on a journey. We get to be vulnerable, joyful, and accountable to one another. And that is transformational. And it is not easy. Not only do we get distracted and pulled in so many other directions, but it also takes a kind of spiritual courage to make such a commitment and to believe that that commitment will be returned. Rabbi Held identifies that in our Torah narrative, for all this time in the wilderness so far, we've experienced God's presence by God showing up. And now, Parshat Tetzaveh is this turning point where we experience God's presence by our showing up, which is a risk. To believe that if we show up, God's presence or our community will also show up and be present. It means we have to rely on each other. And it's not just here in this service. This week you might have seen we launched our small groups initiative, a way for us to help us find our people and to make meaningful connections to other CBE members, to join our lives together. The first round of small groups are challah baking, sage elders, gardening, mahjong, Union Temple Legacy Circle, and conversational Hebrew. That last one really makes me sweat when I do it. Very intense, but it's really, really wonderful. And if those are not up your alley, or you have an idea for a different one, we'll help you create that too. These groups will meet regularly. The same group of people over an arc of time, coming to know each other and show up for one another. The launch of this is the Teruma moment, for sure. Very exciting out of the gate. But the spark, the ner tamid of these groups grows as they meet with consistency, building trust, laughing together, telling stories, coming to matter to one another over time. And it takes some courage to be a regular to each other and to say, I want this connection, and to hope that others will keep showing up too. But it could be worth it. To invest in each other like this, it's like the holy service of the Levites in the Mishkan. Rabbi Held writes, for one-time events, one can rely on passion and spontaneity. For enduring commitments, on the other hand, one needs steadiness and steadfastness. Regularity might not be super exhilarating, but it does amplify the light more and more each time. There is one thing I did not quit, even though it was really hard. Community organizing did not come easy to me, but I kept at it regularly, and through it, found enduring, important connections with others. And it completely changed my life. May we each merit the blessing of Teruma, passionate, spontaneous, fireworks moments in our lives and in our community. May we also merit the blessing of Tetzaveh, of the life-changing, soul-nurturing, joy-making connections and meaning that come as we light our Ner Tamid. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We rise at this time and turn to page 144. Yitkadol v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Yamad yivrach yuteh yamlich melchuteh B'chayei anu yomecha U'chayei techol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'bizman karim V'yimeru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam le'alayah Yitbarach v'yishtabach V'yifa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh V'yitalor v'yitaleh v'yitalach Shemei nekudasha v'richu Le'elam mikol birchatav v'shiratav Mabdil ben yom ben layla al night tzvaot shemot el chayr kayom tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Amari v'arati Page 150 Ahavat olam
Page 60, we turn to Hashkivenu, this prayer that we pray for protection. Protection for all of those who are vulnerable, all of those who find themselves without physical shelter over their heads or a spiritual shelter, feeling bared to the elements of a harsh, sometimes harsh world. There are words in the middle of this prayer where we name the things that we hope will be kept far away from us. We name them, we say, our enemy and illness and war and famine and sorrow. We just name all the things that haunt our ideas about what could happen tomorrow or next. And we pray. We see these things in the world, God. We see that they're out there. We see that they hurt and they cause people pain. And our simplest prayer, we want to be distanced from that. We want to be far from that, and not just us, but everybody in this room, and not just everybody in this room, but everybody in our circles, and not just everybody in our circles, God, everybody across this world, that we spread this canopy of peace, this shelter of peace, this sukkhat shalom, over every last person who is in need of that protection and feeling safe on this night. And then we will pray Misha Barach, our prayer for healing, after that, because we know that sometimes those things, the illness and the famine, the war and all of the sorrow, it does sometimes touch us. And it causes us cracks. Sometimes it's in our bodies, if we're sick, or somebody we love is sick. Sometimes it's in our hearts, if we feel lonely or lost. Sometimes it's in our very souls. In those moments, we just pray for a refuah shlema, a healing, for each person that we know who walks a difficult path, whose bodies creak some, whose hearts can't stay still, whose minds race. Pray for a calm, for a peace, for a wholeness. If you're joining us virtually, we want to invite you to place the names of people for whom you are praying for healing into the chat. You know, share a little bit about them. So we know what you're going through or what somebody you love is going through, that we can hold them as our own. And here in this space, in the midst of our healing prayer, we'll invite names forward. We begin here on page 160 with Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu.
Page 371. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We rise and turn to page 162. He now rise and turn to page 586 for enlightenment. As we turn around. Aleinu Shabbat Adon Hakol, Latei Gidula Yotzei Bereshit, Shelo Samech Moed Haratzot, V'lo Samad Mishpachot Ha'adamah, Shelo Sam Chokid Yiprahem, V'gor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, V'anachnu Korim, U'mishtachavim. Happy to invite forward to offer welcome, greetings, and announcements, Doris Kluger.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Rabbi Coleman and our tutorial intern, Jordan Goldstein, for our wonderful services. Today's first, and it almost feels like spring, so we'll see. Thank you so much to our temple staff who keeps us running so well, and to Mary Beth Batcher for supporting us tonight in person, and for Nat Daffy, who is on Zoom, Facebook Live, and our website. Tomorrow morning, Shabbat morning services with the B'nai Mitzvah of Moses Dodd and William Jewell will take place at 9:30 in the sanctuary, and also on Zoom, YouTube, Facebook Live, and our website. Gan Shabbat for Yachad K-2 families is at 9:15 in the Rotunda, and Shir LaShabbat with Debbie Bruckman for ages 0 to 5 is in the social hall at 9:30 a.m. Again, we are really excited about launching our small group initiative. As Rabbi Coleman mentioned before, we're starting off with the following groups: challah baking, conversational Hebrew, sage discussions, gardening, mahjong, and the Union Temple Legless Circle. You can visit our website to sign up for one of these groups, or to suggest a different group that is of interest to you. Now, we made a promise. If you sign up and suggest a different group, you don't have to be the leader, you can just be a participant. So please, if you have any questions, reach out to Rabbi Jason Gitlin, our CBE Small Groups and Community Engagement Specialist at jgitlin@cbebk.org. Now, how many of you knew that Chesed has a Solvers team? This group helps congregants find resources for big or small problems, from how to change or getting someone to change a light bulb to connecting you with support groups and more. Really, they're there to help. Please reach out to them at chesed@cbe.org for help. There are lots of exciting things happening in the next month at CBE. We have another weekend in partnership with Antioch Baptist Church in 2 weeks, and we have multiple Purim plans in the works. Please stay tuned for more details next week, and check out the CBE website, cbebk.org, for details about everything that's happening at CBE. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
you so much, Doris. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all of the things you do in this community. So at the end of prayer, at the end of any time we gather to pray, we offer words of memory. We come back to a place of memory. We recognize that retroactively we weren't here by ourselves this whole time, but we were carrying people with us who we haven't seen in a long time, but that are present in our hearts and our heads, in the way we walk or laugh or work or play. So we'll draw them into this space here as well. And if you are joining us virtually, I invite you to put the names of the people you're remembering and also a memory about them, something unique about them you're just thinking about today, something sticking with you. And so in this space and on our virtual space, if this is a period of Shiva for you, the first 7 days after your loss, if this is a period of Shiva for you, we want to invite you to rise and to say the name of who you're remembering. And if this is a period of Shloshim for you, the first 30 days, we want to invite you to rise and share their name. Stay standing if you're able. We're just going to want to be with you. If this is the first year after your loss, we want to invite you also to rise and let us know who you're thinking about tonight. And if you are here for a yard site to mark an anniversary of a death of your loved one, we invite you to rise and share their name as well. We, your community, rise now to surround you. In this congregation, we are remembering during their period of Shloshim, Gilda Frisch, mother of Jeffrey Frisch, mother-in-law of Stacy Ovadia Frisch, and grandmother of Claudia and Evan, Isaac Steinberg, father of Stephanie Steinberg, father-in-law of Daniel Schachter and grandfather of Alana, Raymond Feinland, father of Laura Feinland Katz, father-in-law of Stephen Katz and grandfather of Joshua, David Sarfati, father of Jared Sarfati and father-in-law of Elena Satin, Ellen Dean, mother of Karen Bowers, mother-in-law of Nick Bowers, and grandmother of Duncan and Eli, Edward Rouslin, father of Larry Rouslin, father-in-law of Laura Dalheim, and grandfather of Sylvie and Henry. And on their yard site, we are remembering Kenneth Altschuler, Ray Barron, Irma Berkowitz, Abraham W. Bestoff, Norman Blaustein, Louise Brenner, Lowenstein, David Brown, Stephen Mark Cohen, Edwin Cohen, Henry Corbeau, Robert Dale, Jean Dale, Max David, Jeanette Lechner Diamond, Isabel Ettinger, Claudia Ezerl, Leo Fisher, Stanley Fishman, Daisy Forster, Irene Goldberger Freckle, Isidore Gluck, Isidore Goldberg, Marion Goldstein, Bert Hochman, Sophie P. Kelly, Saul Kolikoff, Annabelle Okuda, Ton Lamb, Hulda Less, Sam Levine, Mildred A. Lifshutz, Elizabeth Lovett, William Harris Lyons, Jack Machtinger, Edgardo Martinez, Elsie Mass, Solomon May, Hannah Messing, Benjamin Franklin Moss, Elizabeth Christina Nabel, Deborah Nadich, Moses Nias, Sabina Oppenberg, Jenny Oppenheimer, Eleanor Roper, Alvin Rosenberg, George Rosenthal, Andre Schlesinger, Lawrence J. Schwartz, Lawrence W. Schwartz, Max Selig, Adele R. Silverman, Renee Sontag, William Spencer, Alan Starr, Cora Stein, Jerome Stein, Alfred Sweet, Miriam Houston, Joseph Wank, Ursula Wayne, Aaron Wexler. We remember them and their memories bring us a blessing. On page 598, if you Join together in Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah. V'alma tivarach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayachon v'yomechon v'yei b'chol Beit Yisrael. V'agalav v'zman kariv v'yiru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah v'barach le'olam olamei amayim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitronam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Kedusha v'richu. Le'elam kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata, Damiran v'alma v'yiru amen. Yehei Shalom Rabbah v'Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yiru amen. Oseh Shalom v'roma, u'yavaseh Shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei teva v'yiru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to all the world and to all who mourn.